Now, President Obama has announced another $30 million in aid for drought-hit American farmers after the hottest July on record. Disaster areas have been declared in 32 states, with corn and soybean crops badly hit by weeks of searing temperatures and virtually no rain. Around half of the United States is now officially in drought. The 6 months from January to June this year have been the warmest ever recorded. 356 maximum temperature records have been broken across the United States. Our science editor, Tom Clark, has been investigating whether climate change could be to blame.
In southern Illinois, it's hardly rained for months. Conditions have been so bad, cattleman Jeff Beasley can remember the very day they last had normal weather.
Well, I think this is the worst drought in my lifetime. Since March 8th, and we're talking almost 5 months, we've only had 3 significant rainfalls.
He turns 1,000 Angus cattle out onto this ranch to feed on grass. Only this year, there is none.
We would still have grass ankle to knee high out here, and you can see that there's just nothing here. And as we walk, you can hear the dry grass, what little there is of it, crinkling beneath our feet. So there's just nothing out here for the cattle to get. That's why we're forced to feed them every day to maintain the herd.
With nothing green, they're getting the dry feed that would normally see the herd through winter. So begins the drought's vicious circle. Feed costs money, driving up the cost of beef. Feed is made from grain, driving up demand for that. Only this year, there won't be much grain. This corn should be green and lush and towering over my head. But like fields across America, this crop is a failure. As of today, more than 50% of all counties in the United States have been declared areas of primary natural disaster. This is without doubt the most widespread drought in American history.
Up until 2 weeks ago, this stuff still had a chance. I mean, it just kept hanging on and kept hanging on and kept hanging on. If we just would have got one rain.
Clint Alt is cutting his losses, leaving just a small strip of corn for the insurance adjuster. Across the US, crop insurance claims could reach $20 billion.
I have no corn this year. I don't know if we're barely in the start of it or whether this is going to last 2 or 3 years. If it's going to last 2 or 3 years at this severity, we're going to have major problems.
America grows more than 1/3 of all the corn and soybeans in the world. Much of it leaves the Midwest on the Mississippi. But in the drought, the river is reaching record lows. Some parts have been closed to prevent running aground. When there's less water in the river, do you have to reduce the amount of cargo you carry?
Yes, a considerable amount. But some of these barges would be loaded 17, 18, 1900 tons. Now being loaded 15, 16, assuming the same fuel cost. Yeah, it hurts.
This drought is choking off America's greatest natural highway. As the Mississippi snakes south through parched cornfields and cattle farms, it's carrying with it a frightening new reality. Climate change isn't something that will happen, it's something that is happening right here, right now, in the heart of America. In a year when the Midwest has baked and Britain has been soaked by record rains, many scientists are increasingly convinced that it's man-made climate change driving our weather to extremes. No one weather event can be linked to a changing climate, but a warming world loads the dice towards droughts like this. For a possible cause, look no further than our rapidly retreating Arctic ice, which normally reflects heat back into space.
The water warms up. That begins a positive feedback because the warm water now melts more ice, and we lose more of the reflective medium, the ice, and we get more water, more open water, absorbing more solar radiation and warming up. On a global scale, this has consequences because we're changing, by losing the sea ice in the summer, we're changing the global reflectivity and absorbing more solar radiation in the Arctic, which then feeds out into the global environmental system.
In fact, this year's Arctic ice is on track to reach record lows. And though it can't be proved, there could be a link to this year's record weather. So the drought's arc continues to the people who rely on weather for a living.
Come on, cowgirl! Yeah!
Are the farmers of America's heartland ready to accept their world could be changing?
There's so little moisture in the ground, we're already worried about next year's crop. I don't think we're worried about climate change, I think we're worried about surviving.
I know over the years it has changed because our winters are nothing like they used to be. And when we get rains here, instead of an inch or such, we get 3 and 4 inches at a time, and it's been going on for the last 2 or 3 years.
The conditions he's describing are precisely the weather extremes scientists warn of. Climate change doesn't mean endless drought or flood, but it does mean the weather that allows places like the Midwest to feed the world can't be relied on like it used to be. Tom Clark, Channel 4 News in Southern Illinois.